He's a socialist, so and he's sort of an old school socialist. He's not a new Labour type socialist. So yes, it's anti-wealth, which we see with the wealth tax, and it's anti-corporation. But it's a particularly stupid move because he has mass unemployment. So surely you don't want to get people who bring jobs, even if they have to cut some jobs to keep the jobs. You have to be efficient. You surely don't want to kick them out of the country. So in my humble view, it's not the most intelligent move. But I have to say with Boris Johnson, I'm looking forward to a steel mill on Piccadilly. That'll be the day.
But should we take this kind of invitation seriously? I mean, if you consider that a few weeks ago, when there were issues about people in France paying higher tax, the Prime Minister was suggesting that, well, okay, move over to the UK, come to England, and it did ruffle feathers a bit, didn't it? It
did, but I think, we also face unemployment. And, as a British subject, I like to see more employment in this country. And if we can get investors to bring us jobs, all the better.
So it's fair game as far as Boris is concerned?
It's fair game. All's fair in business.
All right, well, let's move on to The Guardian. And it talks about the Leveson report, which will be published tomorrow. There'll be huge amounts of interest in what it has to say. But, of course, what everybody wants to know is what will be the outcome of this. And this article in The Guardian talks about the fact that David Cameron is under pressure now to rein in the press off the back of this report.
Yes, and probably he will be. And, we have asked Lord Leveson to hold an inquiry and come up with recommendations. So at least we should maybe not implement them in full, but they need to be fully discussed, and one needs to, with a view of what can be implemented. Otherwise, why did we have the inquiry?
Cornelia, is it surprising to you that The Guardian reports of this poll that suggests overwhelming public support for an independent regulator, but then you have lawmakers, MPs, saying that that's not the way to go, it'll stifle press freedom?
Yeah, really, there is something, I do understand why the public is reacting, why they're reacting, because this phone hacking, well, News of the World has been, out of order. So yes, I understand why they do it. I'm not sure. I'm sure one can do something that doesn't stifle press freedom but makes people behave.
Or putting the question differently, Cornelia, can the press self-regulate?
Probably, but maybe it needs somebody supervising its self-regulation.
Now let's have a look at Gulf News. It focuses on the OECD's very gloomy outlook for the global economy, just saying that the Eurozone debt crisis is the biggest threat to the global economy. Of course, that's no big revelation. We're all very, very aware of that, keenly aware of that, aren't we? But quite interesting, on the same page, we've got a story about signs in the States. Things are getting better, home prices going up there. The 1% growth number for UK yesterday, which was good news. It's quite interesting, isn't it, how they're all mixed together, these stories, yeah, but signs of growth.
Yes, but if you look at it, the OECD has, if I've calculated it right, it has downgraded its forecast for this year by 0.5% globally and by 0.8% for next year. And that's quite a bit. That's nearly a percent for next year. And if you look at it, the EU, the Eurozone is very big. The EU is the largest export market for China, for instance. So yes, we are very in the interdependent world. We are very integrated. UK, very good, but a lot of it is the Olympic boom. So let us see. The Olympics have given us a boost. So let us see how that pans out over the next few quarters.
Let's move on to the International Herald Tribune. Is it a play that you would sign up for? A play, or, well, the idea of a musical on the trials and tribulations, if you like, of Dominic Strauss-Kahn, who's facing some legal issues today?
No, I really find the story so sad. Here we have somebody who was a very competent man in terms of as an economist, as a head of the IMF, and then his fall from grace. It's such a sad story. I don't like to cheer on sad stories.
All right, well, let's swiftly move on then in that case and look at China Daily. Birth rule could be relaxed. The reports and the action plans under the review, population specialist says, of course, in China we've seen that change in leadership. So it's talking about some of the possible changes that follow.
Well, this has to follow, because if you look at it, China is one of the fastest aging populations. As it says here, it's sort of its growth rate is below, population growth is below the replacement rate. And the question for China is very much, will she get old before she gets rich, or will she get rich before she gets old? So this is really, really crucial. It's a very important story.
But Cornelia, isn't it interesting, though, that even though they're talking about this now, the reality is that wealthy Chinese already are flouting the one-child rule policy, in the sense that you can pay a fine, and if you have the money, you pay the fine, and you have the children that you want.
Yes, that's true, but the wealthy Chinese are still only a small part of the population, so that will not help the overall problem of the aging society.
All right, and then finally,
I love that one.
This story about, yeah, exactly, and is it possibly North Korea's top leader named as the Onion sexiest man alive for this year?
Yeah, well, it was a nice.
Give us your views on this story.
But they all say that power is very irresistible. Apparently, this seems to be a proof of it. But I feel so sorry for the Communist Party news agency for not detecting that this was a spoof. That somebody, some poor guy probably or girl probably lost their jobs over this.
Well, lost their job perhaps, but what is surprising to some is that they would fall for this again, because I mean earlier this year, the same Onion, which everyone knows is a satirical paper, said they did a survey which showed that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was more popular than Barack Obama in rural America. And that was published by, I believe, an Iranian news agencies. You wonder if they will see the humor in this.
Well, yeah, I don't. I mean, if I was in the head of the news agency, I would probably not see the humor. But for us, obviously, it's hilarious.
But it does suggest, though, that Western media is very well monitored.
It's very well monitored. It's also very much online. It's very out there. They're doing a great marketing job, so that's good.
Okay.
Now, Cornelia, before we go, I just want to get your take on some of the other big stories, because of course we have the situation with the new chief at the Bank of England, and give us your take on that, because it's very much your area, isn't it? The Canadian new man that's likely to get the job, who will get the job.
And I think it's a very good choice. He seems to, he has been at the helm of also the new banking the global new banking regulations. He has been at the helm of trying to get a new sort of financial architecture globally. He's certainly the right man for the job, so this is good. And I'm very proud of this country for saying, okay, let's get the best of the talent, and even if they don't hold the British passport.
It's quite a coup he did get the best of the talent as well, isn't it?
Of
and
course,
he got
why
a pay
wouldn't
rise
we?
to boot.
And why wouldn't? But
someone's getting a pay rise.
Compared to the Swiss bank governor, he doesn't get paid so much.